to give you the best talent we can bring all the way from Bay Area, Central Valley, SoCal. The most important of our talent is our youth and our students, of course. So we have 5 amazing student performers, youth performers tonight, and I'm going to introduce the first few. Our first performer is Kaliyah Vernon. Spotlight Kaliyah, please, team. Kaliyah Vernon is 17 and from Hayward, California, attending Tennyson High. She will be sharing a poem. Everybody, please throw it in for once in the chat. It's never easy to go first. Kaliyah, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. And I thank you all for organizing this event. And I want to give a special shout out to my aunt, Dr. Farima, and because without her, I wouldn't have even known about this or had the guts to perform.
Love you.
So my poem is called Ancestral Knowledge. Ethnic studies are histories and her stories in art form. A mosaic of colorful stories that shine despite being silenced or whitewashed in this country, where the resistance and resilience of people of color serve as a tessera it was built upon. My history. The histories and her stories of my people. Nicaraguan, Belizean, Black, and Iranian. The history and her stories of all oppressed people in between. The histories and her stories that I was never taught in school. The histories and her stories that were banned in the state of Arizona. The histories and her stories that still fight to be considered worthy as a requirement. They say ethnic studies is anti-American, that the classes are hateful and that they teach resentment, that ethnic studies, yes, ethnic studies, is racist and discriminatory to other ethnic groups. But I ask, why do they not think the same when centering Eurocentric history, a history of violence, of rape, of colonization, of genocide, of enslavement, of white supremacy, a history of historical oppression that led to ideological oppression, that led to internalized oppression, that led to interpersonal oppression, that gets recycled through institutional oppression, that becomes a never-ending cycle of racial trauma for people of color for generations upon generations upon generations until we unlearn their history. America's Eurocentric history can never teach me about the legacy of our ancestral brilliance, because it's a history that teaches me to hate myself, that teaches us to hate ourselves, that teaches us to hate one another. Their history and their education was never meant to empower us. Their history was always meant to teach us to fear them, to know our place in their system, to memorize the dates that they conquered our people, and to grade us on our complacency. When our people learn ethnic studies, we learn to think critically about issues in history and in society. We become empowered to take action, and that scares them. That threatens their systems of oppression. So when I ask for ethnic studies to be implemented into schools, I am tired of hearing that there is no funding, when we know the U.S. has money for wars, for police, for prisons, for detention centers, for walls, to block people from refuge to hoard this stolen land. You see, I may not be old enough to vote, but I am old enough to pay taxes. Taxation without representation, I need my education, an education for liberation, an education that is culturally responsive, an education that will abolish schooling, that will dismantle oppression. You see, U.S. schooling colonizes my people over and over and over again. U.S. schooling funnels my people into prisons. U.S. schooling dehumanizes my people, strips us of our indigenous languages, beliefs, practices, and wisdom. So I remind myself why they won't teach us the histories and her stories of our people until college. And then I remind myself that it is because they make sure that not all of us get to college. And then I remind myself that even if we do make it to college, college is not accessible to all, affordable to all, attainable for all. There are institutions that are discriminatory. They were never made for me, made for us. Institutions that will leave us buried in debt simply for not wanting to be buried in assimilation. So this is how they get us, making us pay for ancestral knowledge that rightfully belongs to me and you. You see, ethnic studies happens beyond school walls. Ethnic studies happens at our dinner tables, at our family parties, at the cemetery, in our neighborhoods, at our prison visits with loved ones. Ethnic studies is about identity and power, a reflection of ourselves seen through our ancestors. I am a part of the class of 2020, one that will go down in her story, one that survived a global pandemic, one that got inspired to reimagine our world, one that revolutionized their education, one that embodies their ancestors' wildest dreams. So with them, we will lead, we will create, we will thrive.
Oh my
Thank you.
God.
Come on, y'all. You better give this